Okay, this abduction, astral abduction, was in 2004. And this was before I even knew who the aliens were, you know, or the Greys or Reptilians. When I was younger, I always liked to watch unsolved, what was it called? Unsolved mysteries. And occasionally they would have, you know, like UFOs and shit on there. Unsolved mysteries. And then UNACs, remember when unexplained files, it was called UNACs files, which meant unexplained, and they would have a bunch of UFO crap on there. That was when I was younger. I used to like watching those shows. Unsolved Mysteries was way before 2004, but 2004 late at night they would still have UNACs files on late at night, like 1 or 2 in the morning, because I used to work nights, and it would be on at like 2 a.m. But I was having a lot of alien activity during this time, and in 2000 when I moved to Kansas City in 2001, but I thought it was all spirits and angels, and I actually did have an angel encounter, but I do not believe it was an angel. I believe it was an E.T., an angelic type of E.T., you know what I mean? I don't believe it was an angel from the heaven realm. I believe it was angelic type of E.T. or a Nordic. But that was around 2001, this experience that I had. But I could talk about that later. That was an experience when I was reading Sylvia Brown. You know, she was saying how, like, you need to meet your spirit guide. And so that I thought I was talking to my spirit guide, or my higher powers, which I was, I guess. And then this angel came to my door. I was in an altered state of consciousness, and I went out of body to walk up out of bed, walk to the door, and open the door. But that was my angel encounter, but that was in 2001. I can talk about that later, but in 2004, I was having all sorts of shit happen by these reptilians and greys. And, but I thought it was all my spirit guide and her 2 buddies Danley and Maeve. And I have seen glimpses of them as well. They're two black men, and of course my ancient Egyptian spirit guide is also black. Very, very, very black. And very, very, very ancient Egyptian. Egyptians that look like that do not exist today. She's very beautiful. And, so anyway, in 2003, 4, 5, and 6, the aliens, well actually I think I've always been on the out-of-body program. Lucid dream program, virtual reality program, I've always been on that program. But it became very apparent in 2003, 4, 5, and 6. But I did not know it was the aliens that were tampering with my brain to do all of that. They're the ones that gave me the talent to go out of body and everything. And I was going out of body every day in the afternoon around this time, 2003, 4, 5, and 6. And then when I moved to Texas in 2006, it seemed to have stopped. But, so during this time, I was going out of body in the exact same way. And I was being controlled where I was plopped down, you know, in the other dimension. Or heaven realm or whatever. I thought I was just landing in random dimensions and stuff. But now I know that the aliens were controlling where I was going. But I didn't know that at that time. But once in a blue moon, during all this out-of-body experiences, I was also being abducted, like by the reptilians. They would swoop down and abduct me. And then after the experience, I was always conscious of them. And after the experience, I'd be thinking, okay, why was that out-of-body experience different than all these other ones that I've been doing? I had been doing them on my own, but the aliens, you know, were somehow, they somehow already programmed me to, you know, shoot off out of body and programmed, you know, where I was going to land or whatever. Or, you know, I don't know if they were directly just plopping me down wherever once I shot out of body and everything, because that I did on my own and everything. But like I say, they already somehow programmed me to land wherever I landed, but I didn't know it at that time. And like I say, during all these out-of-body experiences that I thought I was doing on my own, which I was doing those types on my own, but they still tampered with my brain to be able to do that. And like I say, during this time, I was still being abducted. I was abducted by Venus, a female reptilian, once, and then by some of the male reptilians. And I would wake up and I'd be thinking, okay, why were those out-of-body experiences different than all these other out-of-body experiences that I had been doing, you know, daily? And because when the beings abduct you, I mean, they rarely, you know, like, hello, you know, and show their face and be like, okay, I'm going to give you an out-of-body experience. They don't freaking do that. You have to figure all this shit out later. And most people will never, ever figure it out. Which is very sad. Okay, so I was going out of body all these many times during this time, 2003, 4, 5, and 6. And occasionally I would have an abduction by a reptilian that would swoop down, you know, from the sky. He had wings and abduct me. Okay, but there were other times. So during all this time, you know, I would have these distinct out-of-body experiences. I would do it in the same way every afternoon. And then, like I say, once in a blue moon, I would be getting abducted. But I didn't know it. I just knew that they were different than all these other out-of-body experiences. And once in a blue moon, I would have a virtual reality experience, which was different than all of the other normal out-of-body experiences and, you know, astral travels that I was doing. And I would wake up and I'd be thinking, okay, why was that different than all these other out-of-body experiences that I was having? Those were virtual reality experiences. They were still out-of-body experiences, but they were different. And I distinctly remember a few of those, but I could talk about that later. The fine details and everything. Okay, so... Okay, this was an experience in 2004. Okay, no, this was an experience after, let's see, I normally work nights, and then I took this job, and I had to work days, which I hated. So they had to change their timing. These reptilians had to change their timing, and one of them abducted me at around 6 a.m. in the morning. And because I had to be at work at like either 7 or 8. And one of them swooped down. And it was still dark in the astral realm. It was still dark in this dimension in 3D. And it was still dark when he abducted me. Okay, so anyway, I did, I happened to, change my shift, but still, even though, instead of going out of body at noon or 1 p.m., even though this was 6 a.m., I still knew that it was different. It wasn't like all my other out-of-body experiences. And like I say, this time I had to work days. So this abduction happened at 6 a.m. Because, I had already went to bed at like 10 or whatever. I hated working days. Especially being on the phones and doing some stupid customer service or collection type of job. It really sucked. But yeah, okay. So this experience was in 2004, and this is how it started. This reptilian being, I don't know what his face looked like. All I know is he did have wings. It was apparent. This reptilian darted down from the sky, from his dimension. And he swooped me out of body. He abducted me, out of body. He just swooped me out of body. And then he flew me up, like way, 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 way up in the sky. And we were already, out of body. We were already in the astral realm, so to speak. I was already out of body. It was dark. It was still dark in this dimension, and it was still dark in his dimension, in the astral realm. He swooped me up. He darted me pretty fast up in the sky, like way up in the sky. And then we came diving down. They're very, very fast. They have very fast reflexes. Very, very fast. And yeah, it was apparent that this reptilian had wings by the way he abducted me. And then I was, flying with him, and he darted me down. I was with him. He darted me down like. We were going really, really fast. I mean, he darted me up in the sky after he abducted me, like, I don't know, at least 80 miles an hour. We darted up in the sky really high, like 100 stories. Maybe more than 100 stories, actually. And then we came shooting down. I mean, just like a bullet. He, had a hold of me, so to speak. And I darted with him down in the astral realm, out of body. And it was still dark out. And so finally, the scene started when he placed me in a penthouse. That's when the scene became vivid and clear, just as clear as 3D, clear as a whistle. So he landed me in a penthouse. And these beings, if he wanted me to think that it was, like a gift shop or a grocery store, he would already relay that information to me. Like they already, tell me ahead of time where I'm going or where I'm at, so to speak. But, you know, so it's like when they like, boom, plop me down in the house full of children, I know that it's a house. When they plop me down in a gift shop, I know that it's a gift shop. Although that one abduction, you know, they told me it was a gift shop, but it was actually more like a porn shop. But this time, it was a penthouse. I instantly knew. I was just standing there after he darted me down in the astral room. He placed me in the penthouse. That's when everything became vivid and clear and bright. Just like as bright as sitting here right now, 3D. And I was standing there in a penthouse. See, you got to understand, I did not know that this was an abduction by a reptilian at this time. I just couldn't understand. After I woke up, I'm thinking, why the hell was that out-of-body experience? I knew it was an out-of-body experience. I knew I was out of body. I knew, you know, I knew all that. I was totally conscious of all that. I just couldn't understand why it was different than all the other out-of-body experiences. And, well, astral travels, so to speak. I was astral traveling to get to the out-of-body experience. It was both. I couldn't understand why this reptilian abduction, I couldn't understand why this out-of-body experience was so different. And it was because, you know, this reptilian being, some of the aliens were actually, you know, abducting me. But I didn't know it at the time. The other, like I say, the other out-of-body experiences, the normal ones that I was having, I was just doing them on my own. No, there wasn't any interference. There wasn't any direct interference. Like, but like I say, I do believe the aliens, like the Greys or whatever, had already programmed me, my brain, you know, and gave me that talent for those many, many years to just shoot off out of body and to land where I was going to land, which I thought was random places, which it wasn't. You know, they already programmed my brain somehow, you know, to do all that. And then in the interim, I was having some virtual reality experiences, but I knew they were still out-of-body experiences. I just couldn't understand why they were different. And then also in the interim, I was having abductions by these reptilians, these astral abductions, and I couldn't understand after I woke up, like, why was that one so different? Because, you know, when I shot off on my own and twirled, you know, through the black galaxy, I always pretty much did it like that, you know. I didn't like shoot up in the air and then dart back down and, you know, land in some scenario like that anyway. So I just knew that it was different. And so anyway, see, these reptilians, they like to mock. And if you watch Storm of the Century by Stephen King, oh yeah, that's a very, very, very accurate movie. They like to mock. And they know everything about you. So, you know, if you go to the porn shop and buy a dildo or whatever, they know that. And you're always vulnerable to them, you know, having, or, you know, being able to put anything like that in your scenarios. Or, you know, if you go buy a motorcycle and you're thinking about, okay, I want to go real fast down a hill and up a hill, down a hill, up a hill, they know that. And so they can put that in your abduction. It doesn't always have to be sexual stuff. They'll mock anything. They like to mock. And bring all that shit out in your abductions. Okay, so anyway, he stuck me in a penthouse, and I instantly knew, okay, wow, I'm in a penthouse. I knew it. I was standing there. But I did not see the reptilian being, you know, standing there with me. You rarely do. I have to beg them to show themselves to me, and they will. If I beg them, they will show their faces to me. And I haven't talked about those experiences yet, where, you know, where I asked them to show their faces, and they did. It was so cute. Well, the ones that did actually show their faces. They were, the more benevolent ones, I guess you could say. The more ornery ones do not like to show their faces. At least not in the direct experiences. When they're giving you the experience, they don't. But the nicer ones will. If you beg them and ask them to, they'll show their faces to you when they're giving you the abduction. Or the lucid dream or virtual reality experience. Okay, so I was standing there, so he swooped me way up in the sky. Like way, way, way up there. I mean, 100, 200 stories. We came darting down, like, really fast. I mean, probably 80, 90 miles an hour. Maybe a little faster. And next thing I know, I'm just standing there in a penthouse. And like I say, the astral realm was all dark at 6 a.m. in the morning. And even in 3D, it was dark at 6 a.m. in the morning. And once the scenario started, everything became bright. Once he landed me in the penthouse, I was standing there, everything became vivid, bright, just like 3D. And there were all these women lined up. Like, I would say probably at least 9 women. But they were all naked. And because it's been such a long time, 2004, possibly 2005, but I think it was more like 2004. I can't really remember staring. I can't really remember if I really saw their boobs or not. I'm sure I did, but I can't really remember that part. But they were all naked. So there were 9 women lined up, at least 9, lined up in chairs in this penthouse. This is a picture of a penthouse. And, it was nice. It was huge. I mean, the whole living room area was just freaking huge. And it was pretty. And, all these women were naked, okay? But like I say, I can't remember if I gawked at their boobs or whatever. I can't remember that. I probably did. But, okay. The next thing, and like I say, I was being controlled by this reptilian, but I didn't know it. I basically telepathically told these women, as well as controlling them with my mind, to spread their legs. I mean, I literally just with my mind controlled them to spread their legs. And also telepathically told them to spread their legs. And in sync, they all spread their legs. They were all naked though, except this woman's not naked, but they were all naked. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure I kind of, as far as I remember, I did kind of, stare at some of them, the private parts or whatever. But like I say, I can't really remember if I saw some fine details. I mean, I probably did, but like I say, because since it's been such a long time. But yeah, they were naked. I told them to spread their legs with my mind, and they did, just in sync. Bam. They all did it in sync. And, they all looked at least, 35 or younger, 38 or younger. And, trying to make sure I don't forget anything. Okay, let me roll it over in my head real quick. I didn't write this one down. I mean, I don't have to. I remember all these experiences. Okay, I'm trying to think. Okay, standing there. Told them to spread their legs. Okay, this abduction was actually pretty quick. Some of my abductions, they literally seem like they're 2-3 hours long. And some of them literally seem like they're just like 5 minutes or maybe 8 minutes and boom. And that's it. And who knows, how long they really were or whatever. But yeah, some of my abductions are awesome. Especially some of the ones where where it's more like a virtual reality type of lucid dream, like where they take me to Romania or Russia. See, those types, they seem like they're like 3 hours long. They're probably not that long, but they seem like they're 3 hours long. And so anyway, what I mean is these reptilians, they like to mock. And when I was 22 years old, I bought this exact Penthouse magazine. Okay? See, the reptilians know that. This exact one. I mean, most of the time, you know, the women look all skanky, you know, in these magazines. But I was with my friend at Barnes & Noble's, and it had only been open for like a year or two. And I just happened to see, you know, I thought this woman was pretty hot. So that's the only reason why I bought it. Because I thought she was actually hot compared to most of the skanky women that they put on these Penthouse magazines. And I still have this somewhere. It's in the other room somewhere, in a crate somewhere. But I know I still have it somewhere. So anyway, now, okay, so that was around, let's see here. When was, let's see, when I was about 22 years old when I bought that magazine, this exact same one. I was about 22, so that was like, about 1994. Okay, so 10 years later, I moved to this new apartment, and like I say, in 2004, as far as I remember, my closet was pretty big in that bedroom. It was pretty big. It was just a one-bedroom apartment. It was kind of a fancy apartment that I lived in, and it had a pretty big closet. And as far as I remember, I did have this Penthouse magazine and some mail and stuff at the top of my closet. And because I had to like unpack and all that. And yeah, so like I say, even though it had been 10 years or whatever, you know, since I bought the magazine, you know, it doesn't matter. They can still, you know, they still know, you know, no matter if you're 2 years old and bought it or like whenever, they can still kind of go in your brain and put those bits and pieces in your abduction scenario. But yeah, so I don't know why, you know, he waited. Well, maybe because it became fresh again in my head once I moved and I put magazine and the mail and stuff up in my closet. I guess, you know, it's like it was fresh in my head again. So this reptilian decided to bring this Penthouse theme out in my abduction. And like I say, I still own it. It's in somewhere in there, in the crate. And when you know those plastic crates you get at Walmart, like those $6 crates. What are they called? I forgot what they're called. Yeah, and so, and like I say, these reptilians, they like to mock, big time. And like I say, they know everything about you. So, you know, if you bought a Playgirl magazine, then they could bring that out in your abductions. And, so, what else was I gonna say? So anyway, so that's basically why this reptilian brought this Penthouse theme out in my abduction scenario. Because they like to mock, and they knew that I owned a Penthouse magazine, and they know what it's all about. So they made me control these women to spread their legs. I know these reptilian beings very well. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah, so I'm trying to think, trying to remember if I'm forgetting to say anything. But yeah, I mean, it was a fun experience. I just knew when I woke up out of the experience that I couldn't understand why that out-of-body experience was so different than my other ones. My astral travels and out-of-body experiences that I was having at that time. I couldn't understand why this one was different. And another time during this time, let's see, what was I going to say? I think I forgot what I was going to say. Something about another abduction. Oh well, I'll think of it here in a minute. Let's see. There's another abduction I had about this time. I'm trying to remember. Oh! I know what I was going to say. Also around this same time, at least 3 or 4 times, a reptilian was taking me out of body, and this seemed like it was more like in real time. Like, and he would take me like 1 p.m. So it was sunny outside. It would be sunny outside in 3D. And when he took me flying across my town, that my hometown, at the time I lived in Kansas City, but my hometown was 3 hours away. At least 3 to 4 times during this time, during 2004, 2005, a reptilian was taking me out of body, and we were astral traveling, and to me, it seemed like we were in real time. We were just out of body, and flying over my town that I live, now. But at the time, I lived 3 hours away. And I thought I was with my spirit guide. I knew somebody was there with me, traveling along with me. And it was sunny, because at this time, I was working nights. And so I would sleep till 1 or 2 p.m. So I would go out of body anywhere between 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Most of the time, about 1 p.m. And, after I'd break the sleep cycle, I would lay back down. And that's when this being abducted me a few times. But at the time, I thought it was my spirit guide. And so this one experience, when we were flying, when the reptilian took me over my neighborhood, I was talking to my spirit guide, Zahn. And I was like, Zahn, wow, everything is so bright. And I was like, I can see everything, and I'm laying there in bed with my eyes closed. Yeah, and I thought I was talking to my spirit guide. I was talking to my spirit guide, but I thought it was her taking me on those out-of-body experiences, in real time over my neighborhood. It was sunny. It was super sunny. It was sunny in 3D. And then once he took me out of body, like I say, during these times, I think I was in real time, in 3D, except I was just out of body, going over, this neighborhood. But I lived in Kansas City at the time, but the reptilian was flying me over my neighborhood. And this happened 3 or 4 times during 2004 and 2005. And I knew I knew it was something that was taking me out of body. Because I could feel, the entity there with me, but I thought it was my spirit guide because I knew nothing about aliens or reptilians at this time. I knew nothing. And I never even heard of the word reptilian. I think I heard of gray aliens before, but never reptilians, ever, during this time. I never heard of the word reptilian until 2012. But I think I did hear the term one time around 2008 or 2009. And so anyway, like I say, I thought it was my spirit guide. And I was like, Zahn, I was like, wow. I was like, everything is so bright and my eyes are open. And I'm laying there in bed with my eyes closed. Like I knew, I always knew exactly what the hell I was doing. I always knew I was out of body. I was always very conscious. But now I believe that it was a reptilian that was taking me out of body, over my town and over the neighborhoods. And the reason why I know that for a fact now is because I watched Storm of the Century by Stephen King back in 1999, and then but I didn't understand shit about it, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't enlightened then. And then in in 2010, I saw it at Big K, and I actually bought it. And that was still before there was a reason why I was supposed to have it. A reason why I was supposed to have Storm of the Century by Stephen King. And so I bought it in 2010. I never even heard of the word reptilian. Like I say, maybe, I want to say I heard it maybe one time in 2009 or 2008. And that was it. But I never really, knew about anything about reptilians or even heard of reptilians or gray aliens. I've heard of gray aliens by that time, but I didn't know they were in my life at that time. I didn't know the reptilians were in my life at that time. And then, of course, it was a few years later when I watched Storm of the Century again, and that's when I understood it all. And there is a scene in there where it clearly shows that the reptilians like to do that. They like to fly you over, take you out of body, fly you over neighborhoods and shit like that. So yeah. But these reptilians, they don't care. If you misidentify them, they don't give a shit. You know what I mean? That's not important to them, but I thought it was my spirit guide. And then, I had these other out-of-body experiences in 2011, and there again, I bet you $1 million that was a reptilian. And that was before I even knew about the reptilians. I didn't know about the reptilians till 2012 sometime. And then, like I say, I didn't really start. Well, I actually did start talking to them in 2012, but for some reason the bad ones kept coming. And I was thinking, okay, I don't want to fuck with them. And then it was 2013, I somehow started asking in a different manner, for my higher powers to somehow give me my astral travel abilities back. And then it just dawned on me that it was the reptilians that kept coming forward and I figured that out. I knew it was a reptilian, so then I started talking to the reptilians to give me out-of-body experiences. But at first, I was trying to talk to them, the reptilians, in 2012, when I was reading David Icke, and the bad ones just kept trying to come. And so I thought, okay, well, I can't talk to them anymore. And then, like I say, it just so happened, in 2013, I was talking to my higher powers, and the reptilians kept coming again and giving me these fun out-of-body experiences. So then I just kind of learned how to weed out the bad ones and draw in the good ones. But yeah, there was this awesome out-of-body experiences that I was having in 2011. It happened on one morning, like in the springtime, and it was a total freaking blast. But I can talk about that later. And I bet you $1 million it was a reptilian. Because some of them, they like to give you fun. They like to give you out-of-body experiences. Not all of them are perverted. Not all of them are rogue. Some of them are very helpful and very loyal. And like I say, actually, in 2010, I was trying to talk to my higher powers. I didn't know anything about the reptilians or greys at that time. I was trying to talk to my higher powers to give me my astral travel abilities back. So I'm sure in 2011, I was talking to them as well to try to give me my astral travel abilities back. But like I say, at the time, I didn't know it was a reptilian that came forward. And like I say, I don't know what being exactly that gave me that experience in 2011. Which I can talk about that later, but yeah, it probably was a reptilian. Some of them are very, 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 loyal and friendly, and whatever you ask for, they'll give it to you. And because like I say, in 2006, when I moved to Austin, Texas, it seemed like I lost my ability to astral travel. So then, I can't remember when I started asking my higher powers to give me my astral travel abilities back, but I know I did in 2010 on forward. I can't remember how often I tried to ask to get my astral travel abilities back. From 2006 to 2010, I can't really remember that. But I do yeah, I was still having all sorts of virtual reality experiences, sexual, during that time. And I remember one virtual reality experience that was a little bit different than most of mine. This was more like, it was weird. This was more like in 3D. This virtual reality experience that I had at Brenda's house, and that was in 2007. I can talk about that later. Yeah, I haven't talked about that one. But, and it disturbed me, you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know what the hell it was. It disturbed me. Because, like I say, it was different. It was more like 3D. Then it was just weird. It was different. It was different than just being a virtual reality experience in an altered state of consciousness. I don't know. It was just different. And it disturbed me, and it, pissed me off, basically. I didn't know what the hell it was, and that was in 2007. But that was a virtual reality experience. I could talk about that later. But yeah, so basically every freaking damn year I had all this activity from birth and before. But anyway, so that was my out-of-body experience to the Penthouse. And like I say, if you get attuned to your reptilians, you will get to know them very, very, very well. And Storm of the Century by Stephen King. This reptilian being is very, very accurate. A reptilian from the fourth dimension that's manifesting here in 3D in that movie. It's very, very, very accurate. Well, thanks for listening. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much.